Imagine the early morning sun just cutting through the fog at a massive bustling port. Giant steel hulls of cargo ships are sitting there, ready to cross the oceans, carrying, well, basically 90% of everything we buy, wear, and consume. It looks so peaceful, right? But behind this everyday reality lies a complex web of staggering financial risk. So let's dive right into this explainer and crack the code of the most high-stakes contracts on the high seas. We're going to look at exactly how the maritime industry turns absolute chaos into a finely tuned machine.
Because think about it, you've got these massive vessels facing unpredictable weather, volatile politics, and literally millions of dollars on the line every single day. How do you actually manage a multi-million-dollar ship without completely sinking your business? Well, to play the game of global shipping, you need ironclad rules. You need a contract that dictates exactly who does what when the stakes are this high. And that is exactly what we're unpacking today, the NYPE Time Charter.
So the NYPE 93, which stands for the New York Produce Exchange Time Charter revised in 1993, is the ultimate playbook. It is the primary blueprint that governs risk, money, and time in the global dry cargo shipping industry. Basically, if you want to charter a vessel, this document details every single obligation between the two main characters in our story, the shipowner and the charterer. It leaves absolutely nothing to chance, laying out the exact parameters for how that vessel needs to perform.
Now, this charter perfectly splits the shipping world right down the middle. On one side, we have the ship owners. Their job, bring the vessel. It has to be in every way fitted for ordinary cargo service, and they're responsible for paying for the ship's articles and the crew's overtime. Then on the other side, we have the charterers. They're the ones directing the action. They perform all the cargo handling, and most importantly, they pay that daily hire rate. It's a perfect division of labor that keeps the whole global supply chain moving.
But, the devil is always in the details, right? Especially when it comes to fuel, or what the industry calls bunkers. I mean, one bad batch of bunker fuel could completely destroy a ship's main engine. So, because bad fuel is such a massive problem, we have Clause 9, the fuel mandate. This clause demands absolute precision. It dictates the exact quantities and prices at delivery and demands strict fuel specifications just to protect those main engines from inferior damaging bunkers.
But what happens if that engine actually does break down? Well, in this industry, time is literal money. If a ship stops working because it needs engine repairs, the charterer definitely shouldn't have to keep footing the bill. Enter Clause 17. This is the off-hire clause, and it basically acts as a contractual pause button. The very second the vessel cannot perform its duties, the charterer stops paying the daily rate. The cash flow just halts instantly.
Now, picture this. A severe storm hits, and the cargo gets damaged. To avoid spending years locked in court, burning through profits on legal fees, Clause 27 introduces the Interclub Agreement. It's this rapid dispute resolution formula for cargo claims that cleanly slices up liability. Unseaworthy ship? That's 100% on the owner. Bad stowage? 100% on the charterer. A mysterious shortage? They just split it 50-50. It's brilliant, it's fast, and it makes sure the cargo keeps moving. But hey, the ocean isn't just wind and waves. What happens when global trade collides with war zones, drug cartels, and dangerous cargo? Our cinematic journey wouldn't be complete without some real-world hazards, and the NYPE Charter has specific protective clauses to shield these massive investments from all of it.
Think of these protective clauses as building a legal fortress around the ship to fend off modern hazards. You've got Clause 31D, which enforces strict anti-drug smuggling rules. Then, Clause 31E helps navigate the risks of war zones and sudden interventions by supranational bodies like the UN or the EU. And Clauses 41 and 42? They lay out exactly who takes the financial hit for stowaways and smuggling. Every single potential threat is accounted for.
And if things escalate to a full-blown global crisis, we have Clause 32, war cancellation. If the world's superpowers clash, especially involving any of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, this clause acts as the ultimate emergency eject button. It grants either party the immediate right to just cancel the charter before their multi-million-dollar assets are trapped in a war zone. Crazy, right?
Then, of course, there's the cargo itself. Clause 4 handles dangerous cargo. Yes, you can carry dangerous goods, but only if you follow the IMO classified rules to the absolute letter. We're talking strict maximums, exact packing, and precise labeling standards. But it also draws a hard line in the sand. It explicitly excludes livestock, arms, ammunition, and explosives, and completely bans nuclear and radioactive materials on board. Absolutely no way. Of course, absolutely none of this matters if the money doesn't flow. Clause 11 is all about hire payment and grace periods. Owners have the absolute right to withdraw the ship for unpaid hire. But international bank transfers can be super tricky, right? So to make sure a massive deal isn't sunk by a simple banking delay, charters are given an agreed number of banking days as a grace period to avoid those nasty technical cancellations.
But just like any classic movie getting a modern sequel, the industry knew the 1993 version was aging. It required heavy modifications and led to frequent legal disputes over outdated terms. This paved the way for a major reboot, the NYPE 2015. This modern global update is perfectly balanced and drastically reduces the need for those messy supplementary clauses.
Designing this 2015 reboot was definitely no small feat. It was actually the result of 3 years of intensive industry negotiations. It was developed by BMCO, co-authored by ASBA, which is the Association of Shipbrokers and Agents, and fully supported by the SMF, the Singapore Maritime Foundation. These heavyweights essentially forged a modern contract that balances everyone's interests perfectly.
Okay, we've talked about the rules, so now for the climax. Let's run the numbers on the MV Wave. It is time to look at a real-world charter hire calculation at a daily rate of $15,000 pro rata. Let's see exactly how all these contractual rules translate into cold, hard cash.
Let's track the MV Wave's journey. We start the clock on delivery day, April 3rd, 2010, at 1500 hours UTC. Everything is going great until we hit a dramatic off-hire snag from July 1st to July 3rd for engine repairs. Remember Clause 17? That's where it kicks in. Finally, the ship is safely redelivered back to the owners on July 10th at 0700 hours UTC.
Now, see how cleanly we chop up the active charter time month by month. We have 27 days and 9 hours in April, full 31 days in May, another 30 days in June. But for July, we strictly isolate that off-hire period. Because of the engine trouble, the clock stopped, meaning the charterer only pays for 6 days and 7 hours in July. Totally fair, right?
So, let's convert that time to money. Step 1. We sum the total active charter period, which comes out to 94 days and 16 hours. Step 2. We convert those hours to a decimal, giving us exactly 94.666 days. And finally, Step 3. We multiply that precise figure by our daily hire rate of $15,000.
And doing that math yields a staggering total of $1.42 million. Just think about that scale for a second. That is a massive sum for just a few months of work on the water.
But wait, the heist isn't over until we settle the books with the final settlement. We start with our total hire due of $1,420,000. Then we deduct the advance payments that were already made during the on-hire period, which was a cool $1 million. Finally, we just calculate the remaining net balance.
Which brings us to this incredibly satisfying final number, $420,000. That is the precise net balance the charters owe the owners to completely clear the ledger. The contract worked exactly as it was supposed to.
So the MV Wave docked safely. The rules held up, and the math checks out perfectly. We've completely mastered the rules and counted the cash. But in the fast-changing world of shipping, are you ready for the next wave of global trade? New regulations are always on the horizon. How will you navigate the future of maritime chartering? Keep exploring, and we'll see you in the next explainer.